Look who's back with us now. Let's move on to this story. The former chair of the White House Council of Economic Advisors is Kevin Hassett. Kevin, first we've got to deal with this. You know, Washington, you've been there. It has a lot of problems to deal with. Now we've got House Judiciary Chair, Democrat Jerry Nadler. He wants the Justice Department to look into whether there could be federal charges brought against Kyle Rittenhouse after he was acquitted. Legal pros say this is a no-go. This is a no-go move. It didn't happen on federal property or involve federal assets. You know, it's striking the thinking on this case. It's really, you know, not so state of the art. What we're hearing out of the White House and Democrats on this case. What do you say?
Right. Well, the fact is that it's one of the things that I've been writing about, right, is that these guys are socialists. And the only successful socialists are totalitarian. And, you know, they're basically abandoning the rule of law at the border, and they're abandoning the rule of law here. A jury of the fellows' peers spoke. There's no double jeopardy in this country. The fact that Nadler would say that from his lofty perch in Congress is reprehensible. And the fact is that, you know, maybe you don't like the outcome that every jury comes up with, but you have to respect the system. And the fact that the Democrats don't respect the system at all is visible in all of their economic policies and visible, sadly, in this statement.
It's clear that White House briefings, Democrat briefings, are not the same as what a jury hears. So, you know, people should just take a deep breath and take a pause and look at the facts of the case. I want to move out onto this, Kevin. You've been very strong in this topic. The president out with a defense of his economic policies today. Obama officials Steve Rattner, Larry Summers say, wait a second, we're in for a long, slow growth Obama period coming back to the U.S. of possible stagflation. Is that true? Retail sales still coming in strong, up from last year. What do you think?
Right. You know, the thing that really moved me the most was that your old friend Jen Psaki said that there's no economist anywhere who thinks that the Build Back Better plan is bad for inflation. You know that's not true, right? How many times have you and I talked about this? And I'm not the only one. You know, if you read articles, there are all sorts of people, even Democratic economists, who think this. And so I really don't understand that, you know, they're basically on a runaway train, destroying the economy. They don't really seem to care. You know, I mean, you have to be in denial to think that inflation is already, you know, the highest it's been since the early 80s or late 70s. It's going to be higher than that next year. You know, people can't buy a turkey for Thanksgiving, for goodness sake. It's in the news, and they're throwing fuel on the fire. It's profoundly irresponsible, and I'm just grateful that there are some responsible economists that are, you know, traditionally partisan Democrats who are so shocked by the terrible Biden policies that they're speaking up.
There's also this. The White House keeps saying that Biden's massive spending bill is paid for. Yeah, it's called taxes and more IRS firepower, 80 billion, 87,000 new agents, 80 billion for that. To go after taxpayers making $75,000 or less, that's what the GOP says, all to pay for a poisoned chalice loaded with inflation. Is that true? They're going to go after those making $75,000 and less with audits?
Right. Oh, yeah, the audit thing is out of control. And the thing is, don't forget that under President Obama, because, again, if you're a good, successful socialist, you've got to be willing to be totalitarian. They used the IRS to go after conservatives. Do you remember Lois Lerner? You know, who basically they got Steve Bannon, you know, arrested, but she was held in contempt because of the way she treated Congress when she was basically caught using the IRS to go after conservatives. And so, sure, they want to have a lot more IRS agents, but if you think that they're not going to be just going after conservatives, you've got another thing coming.
What,
and they're going to go after conservatives with low incomes, high incomes. You know, if they can tell that you voted for Trump, then you're going to get audited. That's my guess.
You know, right from the get-go, this feels like a gigantic quota system that was outlawed at the IRS. The CBO rules say you're not allowed to count tax collection in your revenue as a revenue raiser. You're not supposed to do that at all. And we know, you and I have talked about this too, there's been a history of political audits going back to dating back to FDR. And through Eisenhower, through Kennedy, through Nixon, right? And through Clinton. And Obama, it's, you know, the IRS, they see a dog whistle coming out of Congress or any, you know, party that oversees their budget, they're going to listen to it and respond. That's dangerous territory. People don't like that IRS stuff at all.
Right. And the fact is that they have a long history of this. You might recall, you know, I'm a lot older than you, Liz, but you might recall that one of the first things Hillary Clinton did when she got to the White House is she got the tax returns of her enemies delivered to her in the White House. And that the IRS people that did that, they got in a lot of trouble. You know, Hillary Clinton, we learned a little bit about her that we learned a lot later that was a lot worse than that.
Yeah.
But the fact is that they're willing to weaponize government. And that's really, you know, what, you know, my book, The Drift, is about. They're socialist who are basically willing to be totalitarian to achieve their socialist
bullying.
aims. And you see it with everything that they're doing.
It's big government bullying. You know, we need common sense. You know, common sense rings like a bell. It gives hope. Let's watch the incoming Virginia Lieutenant Governor-elect, Winsome Sears. Watch this.
You know, we have to look at the whole bill. And my God, did you see the bill was this big? Who has read that whole massive thing? Do we know what's really in it? And do we have to pass it before we can know what's in it?
Right. Your response.
Yeah, you know, it's a very long bill. I think if somebody wrote the words, then they probably read them while they were writing them, but maybe there were 50 people that wrote it and they stapled them together. The fact is it's filled with stuff that I've read that's shocking and disturbing to me. That, you know, I've written about the tax side. You know, they're about to try to make us the highest tax place in the developed world. They've got all these stealth increases on American corporations, which are going to make them all flee overseas, and that's going to drive jobs overseas right at a time where they're putting fuel on the fire for demand. So they're attacking supply, feeding demand, and then saying there's no economist on earth that says that if you reduce supply and increase demand, that prices will go up. You know, the shamelessness of these people. You know me, am I not the most mild-mannered, happy economist
sure
here? Like, they've really got me outraged. This is really disgusting what they're doing. I'd love to get any of them in a seminar room to try to defend what they're doing, but they're not going to do that because they can speak to their supporters through the American media that has stopped caring about science, stopped caring about facts, and the only thing they care about, apparently, is Democratic partisan victory.
You know what's so great about you, Kevin? You smile even through your outrage and disgust.
Yeah.
That's what's great
Well,
about
I'm happy
Kevin
to be
Hassett.
alive. That's what it is.
Good for you. We'll get through this, Kevin Hassett. So long as you're on
We
the
will.
show, come back soon. It's good to see you and buy his book. He's a great
Thank you.
writer.